Hello, hello, hello. I'm Dr. Walliger, and welcome to my video. This video is going to be on stress and time management. And remember, you have the right to be you. I will share my screen now, and after this point, you'll just hear my voice throughout the PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to hop back to the beginning really quick. Had to pause that for a second to get my PowerPoint up and running. So, okay. Throughout this PowerPoint, I'm going to discuss different techniques and strategies for time management and stress management. And I'll give personal examples on some of the things that I struggle with and how I handle it. Specific key points today is understanding the stress, causes and effects, principles of effective time management, strategies to reduce and manage stress, and integrating time management to lower stress levels. We have different definitions and types of stress. So the acute stress is short-term stress, in the moment stress. Chronic stress is long-term stress and things that stress us out over time. There is positive stress and negative stress. Positive stress, often referred to as eustress as well, can motivate us and help propel us in the right direction, while negative stress will distress us, and that can definitely harm us physically and mentally in many different ways, and we'll discuss that further in just a moment. There is a high level of importance in recognizing what type of stress you're experiencing. Identifying stress types is key to applying effective management and coping strategies. And so sometimes this takes practice. I don't go into any of this instruction thinking that anything that is suggested or recommended or any strategies or coping skills that are shared will come easy. It's definitely going to take some footwork and some hard work and practice. Practice makes progress. And these are just some common causes of stress in daily life, and this is going to vary from person to person. Pressures from work and relationships and finances and time constraints. And there's so many different things that can cause different types of stress. And so it's important to recognize what is causing your stress and whether it's a positive stress or a negative stress. And the different types of stress come in different forms. So we have physical, emotional, and behavioral impacts from the different types of stress we can experience. I'm going to take a moment in this video and give credit to a fallen sister for this artwork, and may God rest her soul. She was a very talented individual, and she provided this picture for me several years ago. She drew something that I had asked her to draw, and she did a beautiful job. And I like continuing to share her artwork and keeping her memory alive that way. Some of the physical symptoms that we can experience, one personally for me, is headaches. After a long day, or if you work in a noisy environment or anything like that, can lead to headaches. That tension in the neck. Some people carry the tension in the hips or their feet, just areas of distress in the body, especially if you stand on your feet for many hours a day. That's physical stress. Emotional responses. I know one for me that I struggle with sometimes is anxiety, because I tend to overthink things. Like I know that perfection doesn't exist, but for some reason in my mind, I got to strive for it, high standard, high expectations. And, with so many competitive environments out there that we end up in, we push ourselves and push ourselves and push ourselves into, and then we just end up creating a stressful environment in our minds for ourselves. in the anxiety, irritability, mood swings, anger. There's so many different emotional responses to stress. And then we've got that positive stress, and an emotional response to that sometimes is we do get that motivation. I can do this. I will do this. And those types of different things. So then we also can experience some behavioral changes. I know when I feel too much under stress or overwhelmed or overstimulated, I just will kind of shut down, and what should I do next? I don't know where to start. And it causes procrastination and, you know, is isolation, or we'll become withdrawn because we're super overwhelmed. How could we ever get this done? How could I ever accomplish that? There's no way I'm going to be able to do that. So that negativity starts setting in, and that negativity is often associated with high levels of stress, especially stress that we have to deal with on a daily basis. Until we learn how to manage it better, it's going to continue to remain that way. I just knocked my charger out of the outlet. So next topic of discussion in this video will be principles of effective time management. I personally don't wake up every day and say, okay, this is how I'm going to prioritize everything. Some people can't function without that prioritization. So unequal task importance. Tasks vary in significance, requiring discernment to identify those that impact goals most effectively. So figuring out for your day, what are the non-negotiables? What has to be done? Or there may be, a negative outcome. Got to go to work. That's a non-negotiable. If you're a parent, things have to be taken care of with the kids. If you have pets, things have to be taken care of with pets. What are the non-negotiables? And recognizing what your non-negotiables are from day to day and making sure the time is blocked out for those effectively is a great place to start. Try and start simple and work your way up. Add things in as you can. And when you find yourself handling the non-negotiables without getting stressed, then the rest comes a little easier. Focus on your priorities, like I just mentioned. What's going to be critical to get done. And if you start getting in these habits, it can reduce stress and increase productivity from day to day for you. Improved outcomes. Effective prioritization leads to better results by minimizing distractions and managing time wisely. Goal setting and planning techniques. One goal setting and planning technique that is comes highly recommended is the SMART goal setting. So setting specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals can definitely help with progress and keeping a clear focus throughout the day. Now, again, these things take practice. This is not something you're, okay, I'm going to do SMART goals and you'll be, an expert at it the next day. No, this is just taking the steps to get to the point where you decrease your stress as you go. To-do lists. Me personally, to-do lists can sometimes stress me out too. So I don't always use to-do lists, but I see them work very well for other people. They help organize your tasks, and then you can organize your to-do list in what's most important, those non-negotiables first, and then move on down the list with what would be less important, and so on. Time blocking and calendar management. So allocating specific time slots for tasks through time blocking and calendar management, it really just helps us keep a clear focus on how we're going to manage our time throughout the day. Okay, I'm gonna have to resume this. I don't know why, but sometimes this PowerPoint sticks on the page that I'm in. It won't progress to the next slide. Well, all right. So Identifying and overcoming time wasters. Excessive social media use. I've heard it referred to as the scroll hole. So spending too much time on social media reduces productivity and distracts from important tasks. Yes, yes, it can. I sometimes will sit down, I'm just going to check out a couple of videos, and then an hour and a half later, I'm still sitting there scrolling through videos. And so with what I try to do is put a time on myself, a time limit. Okay, I'm going to scroll through videos for 15 minutes. And then I decide what task I'm going to move on to after that 15 minutes. So I have it in my mind. I'm going to go from watching videos to doing this. And sometimes that helps me to, okay, 15 minutes is up. I'm moving on to doing the laundry or washing dishes or whatever needs to happen. Interruptions impact. Frequent interruptions disrupts our focus. It does. It can waste time and reduce efficiency. Obviously, some interruptions are unavoidable. Like even doing these videos here with me, I'm at home, so I want to guarantee no interruptions, but I have a family, so they may happen. And so it's about knowing how to, if an interruption does happen, that's super critical or important, how to manage the time from that point forward and just adjust. We do have to know how to adjust. Poor delegation. Failing to delegate tasks properly causes overload and inefficient time management. And I find myself, when I do that, I'll be late at night scrambling, trying to get everything done. And I know that it's not always possible to take care of everything right in the moment, but I do try to do that as much as possible, is take care of what I can take care of in the moment. More wow, these words. More strategies coming your way now. When I was younger and started raising my kids and everything, I thought, oh, who has time for the, meditation and praying and deep breathing? I'm like, you just go, 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 go. You kind of become robotic in what you're trying to achieve from day to day. And time just seems to go by so fast. And so I'm like, relaxation techniques, but I will tell you, there is definitely something to it. Uh, Something about decompression and clearing your mind and refocusing and just recalibrating yourself for the moment. I It took me a long time to realize that doing nothing for a few minutes is actually doing something. It's doing something for your mental health and your well-being and just clearing your mind and that decompression that's necessary for us to, tackle everything else that we have to tackle that comes after that. And deep breathing. We can do that without anybody else knowing we're doing it. So if we're getting stressed out, we can just take a couple minutes and do some different breathings. If you're interested in more types of breathings, let me know. Uh, I know different types of breathing techniques and grounding techniques that are super helpful. And then putting them into practice is sometimes a little bit more difficult than we think. So meditation practice. Meditation enhances mental clarity and promotes relaxation by focusing the mind. And like I just talked about, refocusing the mind is super important because when we start going task, 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 we just get wrapped up in the moment, and sometimes we miss some of those more critical tasks that should have been done because we get overwhelmed and we avoid the major task that we think is going to stress us out and do all the other things that probably weren't as important. I know that's one of the things I do. Yoga and mindfulness. Mindfulness is huge. Being purposeful and mindful about what we're doing step to step each day. Certain lifestyle adjustments for better stress control, regular exercise, the balanced nutrition, feeding and fueling our body with the necessary nutrition is a huge one. Our brain and hearts and all our organs need specific nutrition to operate at their full functionality abilities. Our brain Again, that also goes with adequate water intake. There is something to all of this stuff. I used to look at this stuff like, especially when I was younger, but now there really is something to it. And I think the sooner people get started, the better off their health and well-being will be. I wish I would have jumped on this bandwagon when I was younger, but everybody's different. So I know with our bodies being made up of so much water, we have to replenish it with water. And that requires, a daily intake of a specific amount of water for each person and eating a balanced diet to make sure our brain is getting the nutrition it needs to operate like it needs to operate for us. Adequate sleep. I struggle with this one, but it is definitely helpful for stress resilience and overall health. I know when I get adequate sleep, I'm not as bitey. I'll say bitey, not as bitey, or irritable or ready to pounce. And then social connections. I need to know who I can go to depending on what I'm struggling with, and who's going to support me emotionally and maybe understand what I'm going through and things like that. So building a social network and a personal network, not just virtually, but in person as well. Those social connections and interactions are so super important. Yeah. I think humans are just kind of hardwired for that social interaction. And when we deprive ourselves of that, we know it, we feel it, and that might add to stress. Again, recognizing that overwhelming stress. When are things becoming too much? When am I becoming too emotional? When am I not handling things as well as I think I could? We have to identify it sooner so we can take action to manage it. Reach out to your loved ones, consult mental health professionals, whatever you've built for your support network, use it. That is so important, to use our support network. So often we close in and think we have to go through things alone and bear those burdens alone. And so often we isolate and withdraw when we know that what we need is to get support. Why do we do that? There's people right next to us probably going through very similar things. We could help each other get through it. So that's one thing I could say. Don't do it alone. Next, we're going to discuss integrating time management to lower stress levels. Creating balanced schedules. And I kind of talked about this, or touched on this earlier a little bit, the time allocation for work. Make sure that is blocked out. You know when you need to work, so block that out. You already know that's a non-negotiable. Another thing that should be non-negotiable is the importance for rest, incorporating rest periods, or blocking out those specific times for self-care. If you're in recovery, block out those recovery times. What am I going to do for my recovery in this half-hour block or this hour block, whatever you need? Remember, 5 minutes to do nothing. Block that in. So you automatically create those habits to be prepared for those 5 minutes to just take care of yourself and decompress. Leisure activities. Leisure time provides balance and helps reduce stress. And they can enhance overall well-being. We can use a time thing and we can map out every single second of every day until we just get in those habits. And then we kind of just start doing them naturally. Or if you're someone that needs to do that, map it out. Whatever works for you, because everybody's different. Effective task delegation. Let others help you. And then you can free up some time for yourself. One of the things that I struggled with for a long time, is expecting things to be done a particular way. I had to let that go. It's not realistic. And it's so hard to give up those reins. I know. But when, as my kids were growing up, if I asked them to do the dishes, I couldn't say, hey, help me with the dishes, and then be critical about how they did them. No, if they missed a spot on one of the dishes, I just toss it back in the sink, rewash it, and move on. Had to simplify it and not have to worry about every little thing that is so stressful. Learning to say no. No is a full sentence. I love that. No is a full sentence. And being able to set boundaries is super important to help reduce stress as well. I have another video coming that will be talking about how to set healthy boundaries. That will be next week. Using technology and organizational tools. Now, technology itself can be a stressor, but it also can be super helpful. So task streamlining, technology apps help streamline tasks. And visible deadlines, make sure your deadlines are visible to you. I have to have X, Y, and Z done by such and such time, and make sure that that pops up for you so you see it. Constant reminders, which can be stressful sometimes too. So make sure you're doing it in a way that doesn't add additional stress to you. If you notice something stressing you out, switch those gears and try something new until you find what works for you without stressing you out or causing additional stress. I know to-do list, I had a to-do list app on my phone, and the notifications, like I had to turn the notifications off. So I visit that to-do app on occasion, and it's not every single day because it was adding additional stress to me or to my plate. Effective time management. Not everything, we want everything to go off without a hitch day to day, but obviously that's not realistic. So again, it's about what am I going to do with this 24 hours today? Again, sleeping is part of that 24 hours. I know I say, what are we going to do in this 24 hours? Just make sure that sleep is in there. So important. This is one that just got mentioned to me. And even though I was familiar with what it is, like, I don't know that I really do it. So, but it is something that I have taken on as something that I want to continue to practice. And it's called habit stacking. It is pretty simple strategy. And again, it's making changes to help that will last for you. So what is it? A method of building new habits by linking them to existing ones. For example, after brushing my teeth, I will recite 3 to 5 positive affirmations in the mirror. The one I started with is when I make my pot of coffee, I drink a large glass of water because one of my goals for my days is to drink 100 plus ounces of water in a day. And I was finding myself scrambling to get that done towards the end of the day. So in the morning when I make my pot of coffee, I now drink a large glass of water to get a jump on that water drinking for the day. Why it works. We anchor new behaviors to established routines. Reduces mental effort and decision fatigue and helps create consistency and momentum. I do find even like on the mornings, if I make my coffee and I forget to drink my glass of water or I didn't do it, I end up thinking about it. I made my pot of coffee and didn't drink that glass of water. So then I can get on it, go drink that glass of water as soon as I realize it. It really is simple, small steps. Start simple, start with those small steps. Before you know it, these habits are going to start carving new pathways in our brains. So start small and specific, as I just mentioned. Choose logical pairings. So choose habit pairings that are going to be in the same time and place. Again, pot of coffee, big glass of water, brush my teeth, 3 to 5 positive affirmations in the mirror. Success is a product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. James Clear from Atomic Habits. I know this PowerPoint was lengthy, but it had a lot of great information in terms of time and stress management. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. And the conclusions from today's discussion. So continuous process. It's going to be a lifelong thing. It requires that ongoing effort from you. If stress reduction is one of your goals, it will take time and it will take practice. I will personally say A lot of this stuff has helped me and it does work. And living a life with less stress is the reward in itself. Understanding stress is super important. So I do encourage you to do your own research and your own searching. Always do your own research and own searching on these topics, especially if stress reduction and time management are goals of yours. They're always goals of mine. Time management strategies. This was just a tip of the iceberg. Very few recommendations for strategies and coping skills when it comes to time and stress management. And again, I encourage you to look up your own, and please, by all means, share anything that you find with me. I would love to hear it. Achieving balance and success. Balanced management of stress and time leads to improved productivity and overall life success. And just being able to go from day to day and not feel so defeated in life, because I remember those times where I didn't know how to manage my stress. And I felt defeated many days just because uh, it's hard to balance everything out that life expects from us. So that was the end of the PowerPoint presentation. And I thank everybody for joining this video. I hope it provided you with some information. And remember, you have the right to love and be loved. Please reach out to me with any questions that you may have or any information that you want to share. Have a great rest of your day.